very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to this Sunday's edition of Primetime News coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mundanak and let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
National New Paddy Harvest Festival held under the auspices of the President. Minister of Agriculture says fertilizer for the next season will be provided under a coupon system. No proper price for vegetables. Farmers lament. No money to purchase vegetables. The plight of consumers. Many factions claim the Antiterrorism Bill is a shield to protect the corrupt.
මින්පාස දේශපාලකයන්ට හොරාගෙන කිව්වොත් අරගෙන ඉල දාන කූඩුවේ.
මේ Facebook එකේ නිකන් එහාට මෙහාට එනේවා ෂෙයා කරන්න ලෑස්ති වෙන්න එපා ඊට පස්සේ. වොයිස් කට් එකක් දාන එකත් ෆොටෝ එකක් දාන එකත් ත්‍ස්වාදී ක්‍රියාවක් සාර්ථකකරණය කරන්න පුළුවන්. ළඟම පොලිසියට කියලා ASPට කියලා අත්අඩංගුවට කරගෙන රඳවා තියන්නත් පුළුවන්.
3-member committee appointed to probe Padula accident in which 2 school students lost their lives. A sports consultant who attempted to save a foreigner in Kitulgala dies. Sri Lanka wins super over to clinch first New Zealand T20 International.
It's the only option. The batting was great in the first inning.
And now the stories in detail. The National New Paddy Harvest Festival, known as the Alutsahal Mangalya, was held at the historic Jackfruit Program in Anuradhapura today under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
The president who attended the festival first paid homage to the Jackfruit Mahabodhi and obtained blessings. The Perahara carrying the new paddy or Alutsahal began from the Singha Kanua in Anuradhapura and travelled to Jackfruit Mahabodhiya. Leader of the indigenous community, Uruwarige Wanilatto, handed over the pure bees honey to the president and it was offered to the Jackfruit Mahabodhiya. Chintana Vilegoda, chairman of the Traditional Rice Farmers Protection Organization, presented President Ranil Wickremesinghe with a bundle of rice pods that corresponded to his age. The president then distributed region-specific seeds and rice varieties to farmers from all 9 provinces. The president also received a digital copy of the 56th National Alutsahal Mangalya commemorative edition.
We were able to accomplish our goals when the produce for the Maha season is being harvested. Although there were certain drawbacks during the past few seasons, we already have adequate stocks of urea for the next Yala season. We have also placed orders for adequate stocks. The President has also instructed us to provide this fertilizer to the general public at the right time and also to issue coupons for farmers to get this fertilizer. We will be able to give these opportunities for farmers in the future.
The first phase of the program to plant 3 million jackfruit trees across the country under the theme Guan Hamuda Herali Perali was launched today at the Anuradhapura Air Force Base under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. This program has been implemented in conjunction with the government's food security program with the aim of creating a local and foreign jackfruit market and to promote jackfruit among the Sri Lankan people. Under this program, 75,000 jackfruit trees are expected to be planted within this year. The book Guan Hamuda Herali Perali, written about the jackfruit plantation, was also presented to President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
With the Sinhala and Tamil New Year just around the corner, the prices of vegetables have reduced drastically this year. The question is why? Newsfirst inquired into this.
What is the situation on the fields? Vegetable farmers said that their cultivation this year is facing many problems, including a shortage of fertilizer and fuel. However, they hope that their vegetables would receive a proper price. But currently, the situation for farmers has gone from bad to worse as they have not gotten a proper price for their vegetables.
A kilo of beans is 70 to 80 rupees. A kilo of potatoes is 100 to 120 rupees. Cabbage is not being purchased at all and is rotting in the fields. I go to Kapetipula, stay till night before eventually leaving the vegetables there and coming back empty-handed, unable to sell them. We are helpless. We don't have money to even buy spices.
The situation faced by vegetable farmers in Kuda Oya Nuwara Eliya is no different.
We are currently buying seeds and fertilizer at very high prices. Although we engage in cultivation, all the prices have come down. Only the farmers and consumers face this situation. The middleman's prices remain fixed and so they earn profits.
Farmers in Anuradhapura point out that they won't even be able to cover the cost that they incurred for their cultivations.
We have no profits. Only around 25% of what is spent is received. Around 350 kilograms were harvested and sold for 40 rupees. However, around 15,000 rupees is spent to spray agrochemicals alone.
Taking a look at the prices at the Dambulla Economic Centre, it can be clearly seen that the wholesale prices of vegetables had dropped significantly. Beans and carrots were sold at a price between 80 to 130 rupees, while ladies' fingers were sold at a price between 50 and 70 rupees. Pumpkin was on sale for a price between 30 and 40 rupees, and brinjal was sold for a price between 80 and 130 rupees, while capsicum was sold for 250 rupees. Vegetable prices at the Katugastota Manikumbura Economic Centre were also very low today.
With the cost of fertilizer, transport and everything else, there is no profit for the farmers. Farmers are in a helpless situation.
A poor turnout to purchase vegetables was seen at the Manikumbura Economic Centre over the course of the last few days.
Sales are down. This is because consumers are not buying vegetables owing to the economic crisis. People just don't have money. Vegetable traders say their goods are not getting sold. If the vegetables are sold, consumers will return to buy more.
What is the state of the retail market? Vendors point out that although the prices of vegetables have dropped, the number of customers they have is still very low.
It doesn't matter if the price is low. People don't have money these days. When I went to pay the electricity and water bills, there was no money left.
This is what consumers had to say.
It's impossible to buy vegetables. With the salary we get, it is difficult to live.
These are farmers who cultivated potatoes in Uvaparanagama Valley Mada. According to these farmers, local produce does not fetch a fair price on the market as imported potatoes are sold at a lower price. The harvest of these farmers is now rotting inside their homes.
We have no way to sell these potatoes. We buy books and clothes for our children by selling potatoes. But now we can't sell the potatoes. They're selling imported potatoes on the market for 150 to 130 rupees. They don't buy our potatoes for even 160 rupees. We suffer and cultivate and now have to throw away 3/5 of our produce. How can we live? Who is to be held responsible for this? How much does fertilizer cost? How much does the workers' wages cost? Our produce is now rotting in our homes. We are helpless.
Farmers in the left bank of the Lunugambehera settlement are facing difficulties in reaping their harvest as the government did not provide the fuel promised to these farmers.
We did not receive fertilizer at the proper time. We did not receive agrochemicals. The government promised diesel at a concessionary rate to reap our harvest, but it's been 2 months and we still haven't received any. It's a very sad situation. I am a farmer who cultivated 3 paddy fields. I had taken those fields on lease. I can't even cover my costs. Please look at the plight of us farmers.
Many factions allege that the Antiterrorism Bill has been gazetted as a shield to protect the corrupt. The clergy, civil society as well as legal professionals point out that if this bill is passed, the general public of the country would become slaves. They point out that this bill also proposes to strictly regulate media and social media.
Attending the opening of a new party office of the Lanka Janata Party, Venerable Lakshmi Menadaya Ratnathera highlighted the dangers in the new anti-terrorism bill.
ජනාධිපතිතුමා අලුතෙන් නීතියක් හදාගෙන එනවා. මොකක්ද ත්‍රස්ත විරෝධී පනත?
The president is trying to introduce a new law called Antiterrorism Act. What does that propose? In the future, no one can criticize a politician. If you call them a thief, they will throw you in jail. All the thieves who robbed the country are now together. We can still call Mahinda Rajapaksa and Basil Rajapaksa thieves. But in the future, if we call them thieves, we will be thrown in jail. A journalist who records what we say will also be thrown in jail. The Antiterrorism Bill is a dangerous act, and it is an act that protects corrupt politicians. The Antiterrorism Act is like a bulletproof shield for them.
ආරක්ෂාව තරගෙන ගැනීම මේ පනතක් විදිහට තමයි දකින්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ බුලට් ප්‍රූෆ් එකක් දා ගන්නවා වගේ තමයි මේ ත්‍රස්ත විරෝධී පනත කියලා කියන්නේ.
වෘත්තීය සමිති මර්ධනය කරන්න හදන ඇයි? ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ හෙළුව
They're trying to suppress trade unions. Their true intentions are being revealed. There is going to be a struggle against the sale of assets. Then Ranil brings the Anti-Terrorism Act. Ranil will get the executive power to even brand trade unions as terrorists. He can say that trade union actions are terrorism. People will also not be able to share posts on Facebook because that would also be an act of terrorism. Airing a voice cut is also an act of terrorism. Posting a picture could also be an act of terrorism, and you can be arrested and detained by an ASP at the nearest police station. This is the situation that is created by the Anti-Terrorism Bill. Trade unions can be banned. Trade unions can be barred from entering certain areas. They are bringing the Anti-Terrorism Act to take revenge for the incidents that took place during the Aragale, and they are doing this to suppress the people who are rising up against the government.
නීතිය ඇතුලේ ඒක හිර කරගන්න බලාගෙන තමයි ප්‍රතිදස්ත පනත ගියේ.
Minister of Mass Media Shantha Bandara says this is not an act that will go against the people.
මේ ත්‍රස්ත විරෝධී කියන එකෙන් අදහස් කරන්නේ මේ
This is an anti-terrorism act and not an act against the people. The people need to panic if an act is being brought against the interests of the people. We need to bring an act to ensure national security. We responsibly state that this act will not cause any issues to the general public. This is only an act that will save the people from any issues that they may face in the future.
වෙනවා නම් ඒ කරදරෙන් මුදවා ගැනීම සඳහා වූ පනතක් පමණයි.
Attorneys of the National People's Power convened a media briefing and spoke about the serious issues in the Anti-Terrorism Bill.
කලින් අපි දන්නවා ත්‍රස්තවාදයේ වැළැක්වීමේ පනත වගේ ඒවා ඇතුලේ
In the Prevention of Terrorism Act, only the Minister of Defence had the power to issue a detention order. Now under this act, a DIG can issue detention orders. The magistrate can only say okay to the order issued by the DIG, and the magistrate has no power to inquire into the matter. This is extremely dangerous. If a person says something and a police officer feels that it is an act of terrorism, they can use this act and brand you as a terrorist. They have given a broad interpretation to the term terrorist, where any type of organization can be branded as a terrorist organization. According to this act, Sri Lanka only has terrorism. The country does not have human rights. Media in the country will be destroyed if this act is passed. Trade unions are worthless. Farmers are worthless. The student movement is worthless. There will be no fundamental rights. If this act is passed, only the police and the president will be able to do what they want in this country.
යමක් කරන්න පුළුවන්කම හම්බ වෙන්නේ පොලිසියටයි ජනාධිපතිටයි විතරයි. වෘත්තීය සමිතියක් තමන්ගේ අයිතිවාසිකම් මිලලා පහරට එනකොට
This act creates a situation where a trade union takes to the streets to win over several demands, and the president could declare it as an essential service, arrest the trade unionist and throw them in jail for 20 years. The government can interpret anything they want as an act of terrorism. For example, let's take a person who posts a message on Facebook calling on the general public to come for a peaceful protest opposite the clock tower. They can interpret the act of posting that message on social media as an act of terrorism. A person who comes for the protest, after seeing that post, he will become a member of an unlawful assembly. That means that no one can even stage a peaceful protest on the streets. This is an act brought to suppress the people. If this act is passed, the 22 million people of this country would wonder if living in a prison cell would be better. The most important point here is that the president is vested with the power to name any organization as a proscribed organization. If the president wants, he can ban the Jatika Jana Balavegya tomorrow. If he wants, he can ban the trade unions tomorrow. Through this act, the government is curtailing the freedom of expression, the rights of journalists and the rights of free media, and suppressing the right of political parties to express their political opinions and the right of anyone to criticize or oppose the government, and also imposing harsh sentences on those who do.
දැඩි දඩුවම් පමුණවන්න මේ පනතෙන් යෝජනා කරලා තිබෙනවා.
The Samagi Youth Lawyers Movement also spoke about the danger lurking behind the Antiterrorism Bill.
මේ පනත් පාවිච්චි වෙන්නේ සමාජ ක්‍රියාකාරීන් මාධ්‍යවේදීන්.
These acts are being used to unlawfully submit social activists, journalists, artists and any person expressing their opinion against the government to the control of the government. Under this anti-terrorism bill, they don't need much to control the media and social media. They can take any statement made on media or social media and claim it is instigating terrorism and detain anyone involved, including those who even agreed with that statement on social media. That is the reason why we call this a draconian law.
ප්‍රතිචාර දක්වපු පුද්ගලයන් පවා රැඳුම් බාරයට පත් කිරීමේ ප්‍රතිපාදන මේ කෙටුම් පත යටතේ තියෙනවා. අන්න ඒක නිසා අපි කියන්නේ මේක draconian law එකක්. එහෙම නැත්නම් කුරිරු නීතියක් කියලා.
දැන් ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදාවටම ඕන ස්ථානයකට ගිහිල්ලා
Now the tri-forces can go anywhere and inspect any property without a warrant and arrest people. The tri-forces can detain someone for 24 hours and they don't have to hand them over to the police like before. The tri-forces can detain someone for 24 hours and the police can detain them for a further 24 hours. Thereafter, the arrested person will be produced before a magistrate. Earlier, when someone is arrested or detained under detention orders, the Human Rights Commission must be informed within 48 hours. That is no longer the case. It is only after 72 hours that the Human Rights Commission will be informed. But then it is too late. They are aware of where the person is held after around a week. When they are in the custody of the police, we can at least call the police and get information. When someone is taken by the army, we don't know where they are taken, including to which headquarter or camp. There is no responsible officer according to this act. There is no responsible officer. According to this act, any army officer can arrest someone. This shows that this act is not aimed at eradicating terrorism. If anyone takes to the streets, voices their opinion, or reacts to a Facebook post against the government, they can be arrested and we won't even know where they've been taken to.
පාරට බහින්න නෙමෙයි වචනයක් හරි කිව්වොත් Facebook එකේ හිනාවක් හරි දැම්මොත් ලයික් එකක් හරි දැම්මොත් ඕනම කෙනෙක්ට ඇවිල්ලා අරගෙන ගිහින් තියාගන්න පුළුවන් කොයිද කියලාවත් අපි දන්නේ නැහැ.
Do you remember the horrendous fraud and corruption that was rampant in Sri Lanka in the recent past, which brought our country to its knees? Instead of taking action against the perpetrators of these corrupt activities, they were always swept under the carpet. Do you remember the central bank bond scam? Do you remember the sugar scam that caused the people of Sri Lanka a loss of 16 billion rupees? The country also lost billions of rupees in the coconut oil scam and the garlic scam. Do you remember when the entire database of the National Medicines Regulatory Authority disappeared without a trace? And what about the scams that took place after the government banned chemical fertilizer and haphazardly attempted to import organic fertilizer to the country? Over $6 million was paid for a Chinese ship carrying contaminated material that the government claimed was organic fertilizer. It was like flushing the people's money down a toilet. But the people stood strong against all of these corrupt deals and raised their voices in protest. Many of these scams were revealed by the media, along with evidence that pointed directly at the perpetrators of the scams. The media stood with the people and continued to reveal the latest hidden developments. And the people continued to agitate against these corrupt deals on social media. When these scams were revealed, every government swept them under the carpet and protected the perpetrators, instead of standing with the people and enforcing the law against them. History has shown us that Sri Lanka will only be rid of large-scale fraud and corruption if the general public and the media continue their agitation against the outright robbery of public funds. But can this be done if the newly proposed Anti-Terrorism Act is passed by Parliament and becomes the law of the land? How will this law affect the people? The provisions of this act could make anyone a criminal in the eyes of the government if they share, like or comment on posts revealing any acts of fraud and corruption perpetrated by government-appointed officials and government lackeys. This may be your child, your brother, your mother, your father, or your friend. This may be you. Even the United Nations has declared that the crisis in Sri Lanka was caused due to economic crimes committed by those in power. If new laws like this are passed, the people will lose their power and the right to stand up against these acts of corruption and prevent them from taking place again. If those responsible continue to turn a blind eye when such damning reports of large-scale fraud and corruption continue to come out, what will be the plight of the people if they lose their right to speak, report, and stand up against them? This country belongs to the people of Sri Lanka. Should the people just stand by while laws that push Sri Lanka further into the grasp of a corrupt few are passed in Parliament? The people of Sri Lanka have never agreed to hand over their country or the strategic assets of Sri Lanka to foreign nations. Politicians who rose to power as a result of the struggle or the aragale of the people of Sri Lanka would do well to remember the saying, the power of the people is greater than the people in power. This is a message to all Sri Lankans who love their motherland.
News First with the people.
Amnesty International says it has raised alarm bells with the government of Sri Lanka around the proposed anti-terrorism legislation. Concluding an official visit of the high-level senior director-led delegation to the country today, the end of mission statement reads, quote, "We maintained our call that any counter-terrorism provisions must be compliant with international human rights law," unquote.
An Amnesty International delegation led by Senior Director Depros Mushena conducted an official country visit to Sri Lanka from the 27th of March. They concluded their visit on Sunday, the 2nd of April. According to the end of mission statement, Depros Mushena said, quote, "We stand in solidarity with victims of human rights violations from across the island, many of whom I met and heard concerns from over the past few days. Amnesty International will continue to work to uphold and protect their right to freedom of peaceful assembly and freedom of expression. With the International Monetary Fund, we reiterated our concerns that the bailout package must meet minimum international human rights standards and not result in cuts to vital public goods and services at a time when Sri Lankans continue to suffer the impacts of an economic crisis. Any agreements and terms and conditions linked to the bailout decision should be made transparent and available for public scrutiny," unquote. The Amnesty International delegation thanked the Sri Lankan government for their availability during the visit, including President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Minister of Foreign Affairs Ali Sabri. It also extended thanks to the members of parliament from the opposition who took time to meet them.
The Media Organizations Collective, in a letter to the Inspector General of Police, said targeted attacks on journalists have rapidly increased since 31st of March 2022.
The letter has been issued to the IGP highlighting the attack on a journalist by police officers at Mirihana Jubilee Post Junction on the 31st of March last year as the most recent incident. The Media Organizations Collective said assisting journalists in carrying out their duties is an irrevocable responsibility of police officers who are bound to secure law and order, adding that attacks on journalists are a serious violation of the fundamental rights of the people. The Media Organizations Collective asserts that the progress made in investigations over police complaints filed with regard to the targeting of journalists is not satisfactory. They request the IGP to secure the people's right to information by providing opportunities for journalists to carry out their professional duties without hindrance.
Protests were staged across several areas this evening against the proposed anti-terrorism bill.
The Jatika Janabalawegaya organised a protest opposite the Homagama public market this evening. The protest was held demanding that the elections be held, democracy be preserved and the proposed anti-terrorism bill be withdrawn. Another protest was held in Baddegama today against the government's repression. Most Venerable Arudatvila Chandradoti Thero and several others participated in the protest organised by the People's Struggle Movement.
Badulla Magistrate Nojit De Silva conducted an on-site investigation this morning at the Badulla New Stadium, where two students of the Dharmada College died when a vehicle toppled over during a vehicle parade yesterday. A three-member committee has also been appointed to investigate the incident based on the instructions of the Provincial Education Secretary.
The two students, R.M. Ravindu and Harendra Rukmal, who studied in the 13th grade of the Badulla Dharmada College, lost their lives in the incident. They are residents of Haliyala and Rambukkana. A school student was driving the vehicle at the time of the incident. He is also being treated at the Badulla General Hospital.
A youth lost his life while attempting to save the life of a foreigner who was abseiling the Sandunalla in Kitulgala.
16 foreigners had visited Kitulgala last evening to climb Sandunalla along with 4 trained instructors. A part of this thrilling sport is for the group of foreigners to abseil the 105-foot waterfall with the help of a rope. The water level at the waterfall had risen due to excessive rainfall while the group was abseiling the waterfall. Secretary of the Tour Guides Association, Priyantha Pushpakumara, explained the tragedy that occurred at Sandunalla in Kitulgala thereafter.
16 tourists came for water abseiling. 4 of them were on their way down from the waterfall. A few moments after that, 2 of the instructors who were at the top of the waterfall heard a loud noise. It was raining in the forest area, which is around 1 kilometer above the waterfall they were abseiling, and water from 3 streams in that forest flowed into the waterfall all at once. The 3 instructors who were there collectively came up with a plan to keep the 16 tourists safe. When the water levels rose, one guest was abseiling the waterfall on a rope. The instructor named Madhu, who faced this accident, moved the tourist away from the strong tide towards safety. When he was coming down, since the water levels had increased, a rock or a log that was at the top of the waterfall had hit his head.
His body was found early this morning. The post-mortem examination was conducted at the Kitulgala Divisional Hospital.
The Thai community celebrated the Thai New Year Songkran in Colombo today.
The Royal Thai Embassy in Sri Lanka organized the Songkran festival and Thai market for the Thai community in Colombo on Sunday. Songkran is celebrated on the 13th of April every year around the same time as the New Year celebrations in many countries in South Asia, including Sri Lanka.
We try to keep the spirit of Thai community in Sri Lanka. Even though they are far away from home, we still keep tradition going on. And it's a good chance to have meet Thai people in Sri Lanka. We hope we also share the fun and people relation to get to know each other more.
The Thai community began their celebrations by performing what they call water pouring on the Buddha statue. The youngsters then poured water into the hands of the elderly at the event. The traditional ritual represents purification and the washing away of one's sins and bad luck. The Thais are also getting ready to celebrate their New Year, that is Songkran. Most of their rituals involve water, including the most fun part, that is water splashing and water fights. And of course, lots and lots of food. Here, celebrating the Songkran festival with the Thai market.
Residents of Muskelia today paid homage to places of worship in the old Muskelia town. Well, this is not an opportunity available to residents here every day, as the old Muskelia town is much like the lost city of Atlantis.
You would have heard about the lost city of Atlantis that is said to be submerged somewhere below the Atlantic Ocean. The old Muskelia town in Sri Lanka also faced a similar fate, although under different circumstances, in the year 1983. In 1983, when the Mausakale Dam was being constructed, the old Muskelia town was completely submerged. But every year, when the water levels of the Mausakale Dam is low, the old Muskelia town re-emerges to the surface. Among the parts of the town that were submerged are the places of worship, including temples and kovils.
හරියට.
This is the old Shanmuganatha temple that was built by members of the Tamil community who were brought to Sri Lanka from Tamil Nadu to work in tea estates. Residents of Muskelia paid homage to several holy sites, including the old Shanmuganatha temple, on a day that affords them this rare opportunity to revisit this town beneath the Mausakale Dam.
Pope Francis has led Mass in St. Peter's Square today, kicking off the year's Easter services just a day after leaving hospital.
Pope Francis oversaw the Palm Sunday ceremony in front of more than 30,000 faithful, followed by the Angelus prayer. He was admitted to Rome's Gemelli Hospital on Wednesday with breathing difficulties and later diagnosed with bronchitis. Upon being discharged on Saturday, the Pope joked that he was still alive. After being discharged, the pontiff was seen smiling and waving from his car before getting out to speak to a crowd. Instead of heading home, his car drove past the Vatican and stopped at the Basilica. When he came out after praying, people on the street applauded and shouted, "Long live the Pope." During another stop, he exited his vehicle to give chocolate Easter eggs to police officers in his motorcade. He thanked those who prayed for him during his hospital stay.
Russia has taken the presidency of the UN Security Council despite Ukraine urging members to block the move.
Each of the Council's 15 members takes up the presidency for a month on a rotating pattern. The last time Russia had the presidency, February 2022, it launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. It means the Security Council is being led by a country whose president is subject to an international arrest warrant for alleged war crimes. The International Criminal Court, which is not a UN institution, issued the warrant for Vladimir Putin last month. Despite Ukraine's complaints, the United States said it could not block Russia, a permanent council member, from assuming the presidency. The other permanent members of the council are the UK, US, France and China. The role is mostly procedural, but Moscow's ambassador to the UN, Vasily Nebenzia, told the Russian TASS news agency that he planned to oversee several debates, including one on arms control.
And in sports news, Sri Lanka won a nail-biting opening T20 International clash against New Zealand in Auckland today. Sri Lankan fans were at the edge of their seats as the game went down to the wire and into a super over. But the visitors prevailed after successfully chasing down the 8 runs required to win the super over.
New Zealand won the toss and decided to field in the first T20 International in Auckland, New Zealand this morning. Sri Lanka lost their first 3 wickets for 65 runs. Then entered Kusal Janit Pereira, who was returning to the side after a 15-month hiatus due to injury. Charit Asalanka was with him at the crease. The duo put on an excellent partnership of 103 runs for the 4th wicket. Asalanka top knock included 6 sixes and 2 boundaries. Kusal Janit Pereira scored 53 not out, his 13th T20 half-century. His knock included 1 6 and 4 fours. The Sri Lankan side went on to score an impressive 196 for 5 at the end of their 20 overs. This was one of Sri Lanka's highest scores against New Zealand in T20 cricket. Chasing 196 runs to win, Daryl Mitchell scored 66 to help his side level the scores. New Zealand were 196 for 8 at the end of their 20 overs, which meant that the winner had to be decided in a 1-over eliminator, also known as a super over. New Zealand faced the first super over and scored just 8 runs, losing 2 wickets in the process thanks to a tight over bowled by right-arm spinner Mahish Theekshana. Kusal Mendis and Charit Asalanka took first lease of the wicket for the visitors and chased down the score in just 3 deliveries. They scored a single off the first before Asalanka